The morning started like any other on Earth. People went to work, children went to school, and the usual noise of life filled the streets. In a small city, Daniel sat in his workshop, fixing a broken radio. He liked working with machines more than talking to people. The hum of tools and the smell of metal always kept him calm. Then, everything changed. The light outside dimmed. At first, Daniel thought clouds were covering the sun. But when he stepped out of the workshop, he froze. The sky was dark, but not from clouds. Something huge was above the city. It was not one object, but many, all shaped like long black ships with glowing blue lines. They moved silently, blocking out the daylight. Daniel heard the first screams. From down the street, people were pointing upward, some taking pictures with their phones, others running for cover. The ships were lowering slowly, and a strange low vibration filled the air. It was not just sound. Daniel could feel it in his chest. In the capital city miles away, the same thing was happening. Every major city on Earth reported the arrival of the ships. News channels stopped all regular programs to show live footage. There was no question about it. These were not human machines. Within an hour, the largest ship positioned itself above the capital. It was enormous, like a floating mountain of metal, and it stayed completely still in the air. Then, a deep, powerful voice echoed across the city. It did not come from speakers on the ground. It came directly from the ship, loud enough for everyone to hear. People of Earth, we are the Rithar Dominion. You will serve us. The words were clear and sharp. The voice spoke in perfect English, and later, people discovered it spoke in every language at the same time. The voice continued. You will send your strongest workers to our ships. You will obey. If you refuse, we will take what we need by force. The message was repeated 3 times. Then silence. Daniel's heart pounded. This was not a movie. This was real. Around him, people whispered in fear. Some called their families. Others locked their doors. But Daniel did not move. He kept staring at the ship, high above, on the main alien vessel. Commander Vurek watched through a giant viewing window. His eyes were narrow and his expression calm. To him, this was just another day's work. The Rithar Dominion had conquered dozens of planets, all weaker than their own. Taking workers from these worlds kept their mines, farms, and factories running. Vurek's second officer, a thin alien named Torvin, stepped forward. Commander, the human cities are unprotected. We can begin collection at your command. Patience, Vurek replied. His voice was slow, confident. Fear will make them obey. They are primitive. They will surrender. In the streets of Earth, the fear was real. Governments held emergency meetings. Military forces prepared, but they knew little about the enemies. Strength, fighter jets were scrambled, but they did not attack. No one wanted to start a war with a fleet that sized out by afternoon. Smaller alien ships began descending. These were not as large as the mothership, but each one was still bigger than any human aircraft. They had no wings, only smooth black hulls and glowing engines. They landed in open areas, parks, stadiums, even highways, and alien soldiers began marching out. The soldiers were tall, with silver armor that covered their entire bodies. Their helmets had dark glass visors, hiding their faces. In their hands, they carried long weapons that hummed with strange energy. One group of soldiers appeared in Daniel's city. They walked in perfect formation, scanning the streets. Aloud, metallic voice spoke from one of them. All citizens, step forward. You will be transported to the ships. Resistance will be punished. Daniel watched from a doorway. He noticed something the others did not. The soldiers were not killing anyone. They were grabbing people, placing metal cuffs on their wrists, and leading them away. It was terrifying, but it also meant they wanted humans alive. Daniel's neighbor, an old man named Peter, whispered to him, "They're here for slaves. I've seen this in old science books. They take the strong ones and leave the rest." Daniel's hands clenched. He knew he was strong enough to be taken, but he had no plan to let that happen. He also knew the world would not simply hand over. Millions of people without a fight died in other cities. Small groups tried to resist. Some threw rocks, others set fires, But against the alien soldiers' weapons, it was useless. One flash from their rifles, and the ground itself seemed to shake. Commander Viewerk watched all of this with a calm smile. They are disorganized. He said to Torvin, "It will be quick." But even as he said this, something small happened in the city of Laren, something that would later grow into much more. A young woman managed to slip away from the alien soldiers. Stealing one of their devices in the process, she vanished into a crowd, and the soldiers could not find her. It was a tiny failure. But Viewerk noticed it. His smile faded slightly. "Do not let that happen again," he ordered. Back in Daniel's city, alien soldiers moved closer to his workshop. Daniel stepped back into the shadows. He knew he could not fight them directly, but he had an idea. If he could just understand how their machines worked, maybe there was a way to stop them, for now. Though, all he could do was watch as the first humans were taken toward the black ships. The air was filled with fear and the low hum of alien engines. Above, the mothership floated like a dark sun, casting its shadow across the land. The invasion had begun. Daniel did not sleep that night. The alien ships stayed in the sky, their engines giving off a low hum that never stopped. The city was quiet except for the sound of marching alien patrols. They walked in pairs, scanning every street with strange, glowing devices. From his workshop window, Daniel could see a group of neighbors hiding in the old storehouse across the street. He knew they were afraid of being taken, just like everyone else. The aliens had already filled several transport ships with captured people and sent them upward into the mothership. No one knew what would happen to them next. Daniel sat at his workbench, staring at the small radio parts in front of him. His tools were ready, but his mind was not on repairs. He kept thinking about the aliens' weapons, their drones, and their machines. If he could understand their technology, maybe there was a way to fight back. Just before sunrise, Daniel heard a strange mechanical buzz outside. He peeked through the shutters and saw one of the alien drones hovering in the street. It was about the size of a large dog, with a smooth black shell and two blue lights that looked like eyes. It floated silently from one doorway to another, scanning the buildings. Daniel's heart raced. He had seen these drones following alien soldiers before, but this one was alone. Something inside him whispered that this was his chance. Quietly, he grabbed a metal pole and slipped out the back door. He crept along the alley until he was close enough. The drone turned its lights toward him, and a beam scanned over his body. In that moment, Daniel swung the pole as hard as he could. The pole struck the drone's side, and it let out a sharp, electronic crack before falling to the ground. He quickly pulled it into the workshop, shutting the door behind him. The drone's lights flickered weakly, but it was still active. Daniel grabbed his tools and began opening the shell. Inside, the machine was filled with circuits, glowing wires, and a small core that pulsed like a heartbeat. He had never seen anything like it. But some parts reminded him of human electronics, only far more advanced. After an hour of work, Daniel found a way to connect his own wires to the drone's systems. The moment he did, his computer screen lit up with alien symbols. Most of them made no sense, but a few seemed to be numbers and location codes. He realized the drone was sending information back to the alien ships. Daniel smiled. If he could control the drone, maybe he could feed it false information. That would confuse the aliens, maybe even slow them down. While Daniel worked, the rest of the city was waking up to another day under alien control. Soldiers moved in groups, taking more people from homes and shops. They didn't speak much, only gave orders in short, cold voices. Some humans tried to resist, but it rarely ended well. In one street, a group of young men blocked the path of an alien patrol. They threw bricks and bottles, shouting for the soldiers to leave. The aliens raised their weapons, but instead of firing, they activated a blinding light. The flash was so strong that the humans dropped their weapons and stumbled away, holding their eyes. The soldiers could have easily taken them, but instead they marched on, grabbing others who could not escape. It was clear the aliens wanted as many strong, able-bodied people as possible, and they were in no rush to harm the rest. Back on the mothership, Commander Viewerk studied the reports. Torvin stepped forward with a data pad. Collection is going slower than expected, Torvin admitted. Some humans fight back, some hide. We are losing time. Vurak's eyes narrowed. Time does not matter. They will run out of places to hide. But deep inside, the commander knew this was unusual. On other worlds, fear alone had been enough to break resistance. Here, the humans were stubborn. Even without matching weapons, they caused delays. And delays could be dangerous. That afternoon, Daniel finished his work on the drone. He tested a few commands on his computer, and to his surprise, the drone lifted into the air. It hovered in the middle of his workshop, awaiting orders. Daniel's heart leaped. He had control. He decided to test it outside. The drone floated down the street, scanning as it would normally, but now it sent false reports back to the mothership. According to the data Daniel fed it, the streets were empty, even when alien patrols were nearby. If this worked, the soldiers would waste time searching places that didn't matter. While Daniel was busy, news was spreading quietly through the city. People had started whispering about small victories, a patrol misled by fake signs, a soldier knocked over by falling debris, a stolen alien tool hidden in a basement. They were small acts, but they gave people hope. One such act happened in the city's West District, where a group of mechanics managed to disable an alien transport ship before it could take off. They did it by overloading its power supply with simple car batteries. The aliens repaired it quickly, but the delay meant dozens of captured people escaped into the night. When Viewerk received the report, his tone changed. These humans, they are not like the others. They do not surrender. They adapt. Torvin shifted uneasily. Shall we increase force? Commander, Viewerk thought for a moment. Not yet, but double the patrols. Find out who is leading them. On the ground, Daniel knew nothing about being a leader. He only wanted to protect his city. But without realizing it, his actions were becoming a small spark in something much bigger. His stolen drone now patrolled several blocks, feeding false data to the aliens. He shared his progress with Peter, who promised to tell others. That night, Daniel heard knocking at his door. When he opened it, 3 strangers stood there, a young woman with sharp eyes, a middle-aged man in a work jacket, and a boy no older than 16. The woman spoke first. We heard what you did with the drone. We need you to help us. There are more people like you, working against them. We can fight together. Daniel looked at them in silence. For the first time since the invasion began, he saw something in their faces, not just fear, but determination. All right, Daniel said finally. Let's start. Far above, in the darkness of space, the alien mothership glowed against the stars. Commander Viewerk believed he was still in control. But on the ground, seeds of resistance had begun to grow, and the first cracks in the Rithar Dominion's plan were starting to appear. The battle for Earth was only beginning. The air above the city was still thick with the hum of alien engines, but something had shifted. In the days since the invasion began, fear had not turned into surrender. Instead, fear was mixing with something new. Unity. Daniel stood in the dim light of his workshop, watching the stolen drone float above his desk. The 3 strangers who had visited him the night before were back, and now they were joined by 2 more people. One was a tall man with a farmer's hands, rough and strong from years of work. The other was a young woman carrying a heavy backpack, full of tools. This is everyone for now, the sharp-eyed woman said. Her name was Mara. But there are more groups forming all over the city. People are working together like never before. Daniel nodded. If we're going to stand a chance, we need to share what we learn. The drone can feed the aliens false data, but that's not enough. We need to strike at them where it hurts. Mara leaned forward. We've heard they have a main communication tower somewhere in the mountains outside the city. If we can damage it, they'll have trouble talking to their patrols. The idea made Daniel's heart race. We need to find it first. That means sending the drone further than usual. While Daniel worked on programming the drone for a longer range, Mara told him what she had seen. Across the city, People from all walks of life were helping each other. Farmers were bringing food into the city for those in hiding. Teachers were organizing safe houses for children. Mechanics were repairing broken radios so groups could stay in contact, even in the countryside. There were stories. In one small village, the residents had dug deep trenches across the road, trapping an alien transport in the mud. In another, a group of fishermen used their boats to tow a captured human group away before the aliens could react. These acts of resistance were small, but they spread quickly. The Rithar soldiers were strong, but they were not prepared for this kind of fight on most planets. Fear broke the people apart. On Earth, fear was pushing them together. Back on the mothership, Commander Vurek paced slowly across the control deck. Torvin stood at his side, holding a data pad. "Commander, we have captured fewer humans than expected," Torvin reported. "Our patrols are encountering problems, traps, misdirection, stolen equipment." Vurek's eyes narrowed. "And yet our records say these humans have no advanced military." "They do not," Torvin replied. "But they are creative. They make weapons from whatever they find." Vurek turned to the viewing window. Below, Earth looked calm and blue, but he knew the surface was far from peaceful. "Increase searches," he ordered. "But be careful. I do not want damaged cargo." That night, Daniel launched the drone from the roof of his workshop. It rose into the sky, its blue lights blinking softly before speeding off toward the mountains. The group watched its progress on Daniel's computer screen. The map showed the drone moving over streets, then farmland, then forest. An hour later, the screen lit up with something strange, a large structure built into the side of a mountain, glowing with alien energy. "That's it," Mara said. "Their main relay. If we can take that down, their soldiers will have trouble getting orders." The group planned quickly. The tall farmer, whose name was Tomas, offered to guide them through the forest. The young woman with the backpack, Lena, said she could carry enough tools to damage the relay. The next morning, they set out. Daniel carried a small kit of electronics, hoping he could find a way to overload the relay. Mara kept watch, while Tomas led them along hidden paths. As they moved, they saw signs of other human groups at work, ropes tied across roads, vehicles hidden under branches, and painted symbols marking safe routes. Humanity was building its own network, faster than the aliens expected. By midday, they reached a ridge overlooking the alien structure. The relay was a tall black tower with glowing blue panels, guarded by 6 soldiers and 2 drones. The soldiers moved slowly, scanning the area, but they did not expect anyone to come from the thick forest. Daniel studied the tower through binoculars. "If we can get close enough, I might be able to send a surge through their systems. It would make the whole thing shut down." Lena unzipped her backpack. Inside were wires, small batteries, and strange-looking metal rods. "I can build something to help with that," she said. "But I need time." Mara looked at Tomas. "We'll distract the guards." The plan was simple. Mara and Tomas moved to one side of the ridge and made noise, snapping branches, throwing stones, and shouting just loud enough to catch the guards' attention. The soldiers turned toward the sound, raising their weapons. At the same time, Daniel and Lena slipped down the slope toward the base of the tower. They stayed low, moving from shadow to shadow. The drones floated lazily above, their blue lights scanning the ground. But the thick forest canopy made it hard for them to see clearly. When they reached the tower, Daniel pulled open a small panel near the base. Inside were glowing cables unlike anything he had ever seen. Lena quickly connected her rods and batteries, creating a circuit that began to hum with power. "Ready?" she whispered. Daniel nodded and pressed the wires together. There was a sharp spark, then a rising whine from inside the tower. The blue panels began to flicker. Up on the ridge, the guards suddenly clutched their helmets, looking confused, their weapons lowered as if they no longer knew what to do. In the sky, alien patrol ships turned in odd directions, some even drifting aimlessly. The communication link was breaking. "Let's move," Daniel shouted. He and Lena ran back toward the forest just as the tower let out a deep, echoing boom. Smoke rose from its base. and the blue light went dark. By the time the soldiers realized what had happened, the group was already gone. That evening, across the city, human groups noticed the change. Alien patrols were moving slower, and some never showed up at all. Safe houses reported fewer captures. For the first time, the invaders seemed unsure of themselves. Back on the mothership, Torvin's voice was tense. "Commander, we have lost control of several units. Communication disruptions are spreading." Vurak's jaw tightened. "Find the source. These humans think they can fight us. They will learn their place." But deep inside, Vurak could not ignore the truth. The humans were fighting in a way he had never seen before. They were not just surviving. They were turning the invasion into a war of minds, and they were winning small battles every day. In the forest, Daniel and his group sat around a small fire, tired but smiling. Mara looked at him and said, "This is only the beginning. The more we work together, the stronger we get." Daniel nodded. He now understood something important. The aliens had power, but humanity's strength was not in weapons. It was in unity, adaptability, and the will to protect each other. And that was something no invader could easily break. The destroyed relay tower changed everything. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien patrols moved without perfect order. Some arrived too late to capture anyone. Others wandered in the wrong direction. And a few even retreated without explanation. In Daniel's city, this gave people a chance to breathe. The streets were still dangerous, but there were moments of quiet now. Moments the resistance could use. Inside the workshop, Daniel was making adjustments to the stolen drone. "If we can get this to connect to other alien systems, we might be able to confuse their ships as well," he told Mara. Mara, leaning against the doorframe, crossed her arms. "The others are already working on new plans. We've heard of a group in South America that's building something big, something that might give us a real edge." "What is it?" Daniel asked. "A signal device," Mara explained, "not just to block their communication, but to scramble it completely. If it works, the aliens won't be able to tell their own soldiers what to do." Daniel's eyes lit up. If that's true, it could turn the whole war. But there was a problem. The device was still in testing, and the group building it didn't have the parts they needed. Those parts were in a captured military base now under alien control. By evening, Daniel, Mara, Tomas, Lena, and 2 new volunteers were planning a raid. The new volunteers, Cream and Owen, had been part of a small resistance cell in another part of the city. Both knew the layout of the base from before the invasion. Cream spread a rough map on the table. "The parts we need are here," he said, pointing to a storage building near the edge of the base. "If we move at night, we can get in without being seen." The aliens focused their patrols near the front gates, not the sides. "Then we go tonight," Daniel said. When darkness fell, the group moved quietly through the outskirts of the city, staying in the shadows. The stolen drone floated ahead of them, scanning for danger. Its false reports kept alien sensors from detecting them. The base came into view, a wide open area with tall fences and watchtowers. Alien lights cast an eerie blue glow over the grounds. Several Rithar soldiers patrolled the main entrance. But just as Cream predicted, the side of the base was nearly unguarded. Owen used a pair of cutters to make an opening in the fence. One by one, they slipped through. The air smelled faintly of burnt metal, and somewhere in the distance, a strange hum echoed, the sound of alien machinery at work. They reached the storage building without incident. Lena picked the lock on the door, and inside they found shelves, stacked with all kinds of equipment, both human-made and alien. "These are the parts," Kareem whispered, pointing to a row of heavy metal cases. "We'll have to carry them by hand." As they began loading the cases into backpacks, Daniel noticed something strange. In the corner of the room was a tall alien console with glowing screens. He stepped closer and realized it was connected to several small devices shaped like discs. Each disc pulsed with a steady blue light. "What is this?" Daniel asked. Lena looked over his shoulder. "I don't know, but it looks important. Maybe tracking devices?" Daniel hesitated. Taking them could be risky. But if they were part of the aliens' control systems, they might be useful later. He quickly disconnected the discs and stuffed them into his pack. The group moved back toward the fence, but just as they were about to slip through the gap, a sharp, metallic voice shouted from the darkness, "Stop. You will come with us." 3 alien soldiers emerged from the shadows, weapons raised. Their armor gleamed in the blue light, and the hum of their weapons filled the air. No one moved. Then Mara spoke in a low voice, "Run." The group split instantly, scattering in different directions. Daniel clutched his backpack and sprinted toward the nearest building, the stolen drone zipping after him. Energy blasts hissed past him, striking the ground and leaving scorch marks. Daniel ducked into an alley between 2 storage sheds, breathing hard. The drone hovered close to his ear, awaiting commands. "Light," Daniel whispered. The drone flicked on a bright strobe, flashing in the soldiers' eyes as they rounded the corner. The sudden burst made them stumble, giving Daniel time to slip away. Elsewhere, Tomas and Cream drew the other soldiers away by throwing makeshift explosives. Just glass bottles filled with flammable liquid. The blasts weren't strong enough to harm the soldiers but made loud, chaotic noise. One by one, the group reunited outside the fence, moving quickly into the safety of the dark streets. When they finally reached the workshop, everyone was out of breath, but they still had the metal cases. Mara grinned. "We've got what they need. Let's get this to South America." The trip was dangerous. They traveled mostly at night, moving from one safe house to another. Along the way, they saw how much the resistance had grown. In small towns, people offered food and shelter without hesitation. In the countryside, farmers had hidden alien equipment in barns, keeping it from being used against humans. By the time they reached the hidden mountain lab in South America, the device was nearly ready. The scientists there were a mix of engineers, radio experts, and computer hackers. They worked in silence, the walls around them covered with diagrams and hand-drawn maps. "This is it," one of the scientists said as they installed the final parts. "Once activated, the signal will spread across hundreds of kilometers. Any alien system in range will be scrambled." The team worked late into the night. Finally, the lead scientist stepped back from the machine, a large black box, covered in wires and antennas. "It's ready," he said. "But we only get one chance. Once we turn it on, they'll know exactly where we are." Daniel looked at Mara, Tomas, Lena, Cream, and Owen. None of them needed to speak. They all knew it was worth the risk. At dawn, the device came to life. A deep hum filled the air, and the antennas began to glow. Seconds later, alien systems across the region started failing. Patrol ships drifted aimlessly. Soldiers stood still as if confused, and even the mothership's lights flickered. In the command deck above Earth, Commander Viewership slammed his hand against the console. "What is happening?" Torvin checked his screen, panic in his voice. "Commander, our entire network in the southern hemisphere is broken. We have no control over our units there." Viewership's eyes burned with anger. "Find them, now." But on the ground, the resistance was already moving across the scrambled region. Humans used the chaos to strike alien outposts, free capture people, and gather supplies. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had the advantage. The war was no longer about surviving. It was about winning. And in that moment, Daniel knew they had reached the turning point. The signal from the mountain lab had shaken the Rithar Dominion. Across wide regions, alien patrols moved without orders. Some floated aimlessly in their ships, while others stood frozen on the ground. This new confusion gave humans a chance to strike back more boldly. Daniel and his group were now part of a growing resistance network. Messages traveled through hidden radios, spreading plans and warnings. They shared ideas about how to keep confusing the aliens, how to stay safe, and how to help those still hiding. One evening, Daniel sat with Mara and the others in a safe house. The air was heavy with quiet hope. Mara looked at Daniel and said, "We cannot just fight with weapons. We have to fight with minds too." Daniel nodded. "We need to break their spirit, show them we will not be slaves." Mara smiled. "Exactly. We are starting a psychological war." The group began sending messages in secret. They hacked alien communication channels using Daniel's stolen drone and other devices. Into alien broadcasts they sent stories of humans surviving impossible situations, stories of small victories, and stories that showed humans as strong and united. One message told of a group who had trapped a squad of aliens in a cave, forcing them to surrender. Another described how a small town had pushed the aliens out by working together day and night. These stories were not just lies, they were true. The resistance wanted the aliens to hear them. At first, the alien soldiers were confused by the messages. Many had never heard of humans fighting back so strongly. The idea that the creatures below could resist was new and strange. On the mothership, Commander Viewership watched reports coming in. The humans are becoming a problem, he said quietly. Not because of their weapons, because of their will. Torvin nodded. Their messages are spreading among our troops. We are losing control. Soldiers are refusing orders. Some are even deserting. Vurak's face grew dark. This cannot continue. We must find their leaders and stop this. Meanwhile, on Earth, the resistance grew bolder. Groups no longer hid in fear, but planned attacks. Daniel's stolen drone was part of many missions, guiding humans past patrols and feeding false information. One night, Daniel and Mara joined a team near the coast. They moved quietly through abandoned buildings toward an alien communication post. The post was guarded by 2 soldiers and a drone. The team's plan was simple: distract the guards while Daniel disabled the equipment. Mara and others created noise at the far end of the block. The guards turned away, confused by the sudden sounds. Daniel slipped inside the post, his hands steady as he worked on the strange alien machines. His knowledge of electronics grew with every new device he saw. In minutes, Daniel caused the post's main transmitter to shut down. Without it, the aliens lost contact with many patrols nearby. Outside, Mara and the team watched soldiers shout in confusion, unsure what had happened. After the success, messages of hope spread quickly among humans. People no longer felt like victims, but like fighters. Children helped by running messages. Elders offered wisdom, and everyone shared food and shelter. The spirit of humanity was unbreakable. On the mothership, the mood had changed. Officers argued loudly. Some wanted to increase force and destroy cities. Others feared that violence would only strengthen the resistance. Viewership paced the command deck. We came to this planet for workers. Instead, we faced a war of minds and spirit. This was not supposed to happen, Torvin added. Our soldiers are losing hope. The humans have something we cannot destroy: their unity. The commander clenched his fists. We must rethink our plan. But first, find their leaders. Capture or kill them? On Earth, the leaders of the resistance worked harder than ever to stay safe. They knew the aliens were hunting them. But each day, new volunteers joined their cause. Each day, they grew stronger. One night, Daniel sat by the fire with Mara and Lena. We have to keep pushing, Mara said. The more they lose hope, the faster this ends. Daniel looked into the flames. They regret coming here, but they do not know how strong we are yet. As the battle moved from weapons to wills, one thing became clear. The aliens had underestimated humanity's greatest power, the strength to believe in freedom and fight for it no matter the cost. The war was far from over, but with every small victory, humans took one step closer to victory and one step closer to sending the invaders away forever. The signal from the mountain lab had broken the alien network across large parts of the planet. Without orders, many Rithar soldiers wandered aimlessly or stopped working altogether. The confusion on their side grew stronger every day. Daniel and the resistance knew this was their chance. The humans were no longer just defending. Now they could attack. In Daniel's city, groups organized quick raids on alien supply depots and communication posts. Every small victory meant more supplies for the resistance and fewer resources for the aliens. One early morning, Daniel stood with Mara, Tomas, Lena, Cream, and Owen outside an old factory. It had been turned into a base for alien soldiers, who kept their weapons and supplies inside. We take what we need. And we leave before they know what happened, Mara said firmly. Daniel checked the stolen drone's feed. Patrols are thin this morning. The signal disruption is working. They moved quietly through back alleys to the factory. Tomas picked the lock on a side door, and the group slipped inside the factory. The air was cold and smelled of oil and metal. Shelves held boxes marked with alien symbols and strange machines. The group worked quickly, grabbing weapons and devices. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the building. They found us. Kareem shouted. Daniel shouted back, "Grab what you can, move." The group raced toward the exit as alien soldiers poured in from the main doors. Energy blasts lit the dark factory, but the humans were fast. Tomas threw a heavy crate, hitting one soldier and sending him to the ground. Lena and Owen fired stolen alien rifles with surprising skill, pushing back the attackers. Outside, Mara called for the drone. It flew in low, shining a bright light that blinded the soldiers for a moment. The group escaped through a narrow alley. They didn't stop running until they reached a safe house several blocks away. Breathing hard, Mara smiled. "We got what we came for." Daniel nodded. "Every time we hit their supplies, they lose ground." As the days passed, more raids like this happened across the planet. Alien patrols grew fewer as soldiers stayed inside their ships or bunkers. The Rithar Dominion's grip was weakening. On the mothership, Commander Vurek was furious. "Our invasion is failing," he told his officers. "We must bring in reinforcements." Torvin replied, "Our forces are scattered. Communications remain unreliable." Vurek slammed his fist on the control panel. "I will not lose to these humans. Prepare the fleet for immediate retreat if necessary. But first, try one more plan." Meanwhile, humans worked to free prisoners held on alien ships. Groups used stolen keys and codes to open cells. Families were reunited. Children were safe again. Daniel helped organize one rescue mission. They crept onto a landing ship disguised as workers. Inside, humans waited, weak but hopeful. When the doors opened, the prisoners ran free. Soldiers tried to stop them, but confusion ruled. Many soldiers surrendered rather than fight. This was a sign. The alien invaders, once strong and confident, were now losing hope. In a hidden bunker, Daniel and Mara watched the alien fleet from a screen. Ships prepared to leave the planet, engines glowing. "They are retreating," Mara said quietly. Daniel clenched his fists. "They came for slaves, but will take nothing but defeat." The humans did not cheer loudly. They knew the fight was not over until the aliens left completely. But hope burned brighter than ever. Commander Vurek stood alone in his quarters, staring out at Earth below. "This planet is not ours," he whispered. "Not now, not ever." With that, the alien fleet lifted off, disappearing into the stars. Earth was free. The alien fleet had left Earth, disappearing into the distant stars. The sky was clear again, sunlight warming the cities and fields. But the people of Earth knew the invasion had changed everything. Life would never be the same. Daniel stood on a hill overlooking the city. The streets below were alive with activity. People were rebuilding homes, helping each other, and celebrating their hard-won freedom. Yet Daniel's thoughts were not just about victory. He wondered about the Rithar Dominion, the proud aliens who came with plans to enslave humanity but left with regret. In the days after the retreat, governments and communities worked together to heal. They shared stories of courage and kindness. No one forgot the losses, but the spirit of unity grew stronger. Mara joined Daniel on the hill. "We fought not just with weapons, but with our hearts," she said softly. Daniel nodded. "That's what the aliens didn't understand. They thought we were weak because we had no advanced weapons. But our strength was something more. The aliens had seen fear in humans, but they had not seen how that fear could turn into courage. They had expected humans to break easily. Instead, humans adapted, learned, and stood together." Far away, Commander Vurek sat alone on his ship. The stars outside his window were cold and silent. He thought about Earth and its people. For the first time, he felt something new: respect. "They have a power we cannot take," he whispered. "The power of hope and unity." Viewerk realized that conquering a world was not just about weapons or numbers. It was about understanding the spirit of those who lived there, back on Earth. Daniel's group continued their work. They helped rebuild communication networks, shared knowledge about alien technology, and trained new volunteers to protect their planet. One day, a message arrived from a distant star system. It was from a friendly alien race that had been watching the invasion. They admired humanity's courage and wanted to offer friendship and help. Daniel smiled as he read the message. "This is a new beginning," he said. Mara looked at him with hope. "The future is ours to shape." The lesson from the invasion was clear. Strength is not just about power or control. True strength comes from standing together, never giving up, and believing in a better tomorrow. Earth had been tested by fire and had come out stronger. The humans were free, not because they had the biggest weapons, but because they had the biggest hearts, and the universe would remember that.